I believe
I
we
hope
are.
so, yeah.
Well, I hope so. Let me ask you this. What's the best game of hockey you ever watched on TV?
Yeah, I mean, the
Olympic Games?
Yeah. And the fighting stops in the Stanley Cup round.
Well,
After
you do have
the second round. It's,
but the best games I can remember: Montreal Canadiens, Russians, New Year's Eve.
yeah.
The Olympic Games, the Canada Cup games. I didn't see too much. You see good hard checking, but you don't see fights. And I'm not saying I'm an advocate of it.
Was that because most of the players were at that level? That they came from the teams as all-stars?
Well, I don't know, but you even go to the next level where the under junior A, World Junior.
Yeah.
How many, you see great hockey there.
But not too many of those players would be fighters on their teams.
Oh,
Like
Zach Casson from Windsor is a pretty good hockey player, and he's a tough boy.
I've never been in a fight in hockey, but to me, you're risking getting yourself injured. When you're fighting, you're pounding someone else's helmet. It's pretty.
I know, but back in the day when I played, I didn't quite think of that. You don't think of that.
No.
You're 17 years old, and you can do anything, right?
Yeah.
And you can go through that wall there, but as we know now,
Yeah.
other things happen.
Other things haven't done, right?
Yeah.
Are you going with the 4-man system?
Yes, we are implementing the 4-man system this year. Very glad to hear that. So we're basically, same as the NHL, 4 men, OHL, 4 men, we're gonna have 4 men, 2 referees, 2 lines, which is good.
Going to be called as tight as the.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. Well, the referees have a role and responsibility for safety in the game, and I believe they'll do it. They'll be supervised. I'll be at games if I don't like what I see, and I talk to the referee in chief.
It'll be a real learning curve for a lot of players because in minor leagues, you don't get the 4 officials. You're lucky to have 2. I mean,
Well,
you like to have 1 referee and 2 lines.
Yeah, and that which was really interesting was I went to the referees clinic in North Bay, 3 weeks ago, I guess, yeah. So anyways, Steve Walcom was there, Brisbois was there from the NHL, Danny McCourt was there, and just how the positioning of how the 2 referees are flowing amongst themselves in both zones, why, like Steve was saying, if I'm in the corner and the puck's beside me, I'm watching in front of the net, not beside me, because I know the guy at the blue line referee has the puck. And it's all about positioning and stuff. And it was really, I learned lots, and I'm sure that the guys learned lots, and it was good. It was real good.
Yeah, I learned quite a bit when Marty got into the OHL because that was when you started to notice the signals and the communication between the officials.
Yeah.
That, when one person was getting caught, the other person would
Yeah.
cover up, and so there is an art to playing this.
That's right.
This 2-man system.
That's right.
And knowing where one person is looking, you don't both want to be looking in the same spot. So you've got to.
But yeah, that's what he said. He says, I'm in the corner and the puck's beside me. He said, I'm not watching the puck. I'm watching what's going on in front of the net. And he said, my partner, he said, the guy in the blue, he says, watching the puck. Because sometimes the coach will say, well, how could you call what happened in the corner to the guy at the blue line? And the second man, and he says, then he explained to us, and Ken Miller was there from the OHL, and Ken used to be referee chief. So yeah, it was well done. The NOJHL was involved. So yeah, it was well done. It was.
That's good.
Yeah.
Oh, even in terms of watching the game, some of the senior referees will tell you that they may get criticized for being behind the play, but quite often being a little bit behind the play makes it easier to see what's going on in front, rather than being in front of the play.
Especially now with the 4-man. I think it's going to be good for the game. I think it'll be good for if the players are going to do something stupid. I don't think it's going to happen anymore. But we'll see. We'll monitor the stats and see what the numbers say.
Yeah. Was it much more expensive? Was it a hard sell?
No. It's we've had this discussion. How can you put? And it's a development thing too, but it's also a safety thing.
Yeah.
What, another $90? Come on.
Yeah. Over the course of the season.
Wow. 50 games, $90.
It's minor.
That's
Take a look at the And if it produces a better brand of hockey on the ice, then that'll show up in the stands.
Well, yeah, and I think it will. I think, but it's gonna be a learning curve, not only for the officials, but for the players. And that's why in the exhibition, their four-man, this coming weekend in Sioux, Michigan, is a Labor Day Showcase tournament. 5 teams. I heard today, I haven't confirmed it yet, but I heard Traverse City was not allowed to go. Their commissioner from the North American Hockey League denied them travel permit. So as commissioner, you have to sign all these permits and all this stuff, so.
Are there many challenges having an international league? like having a team from the United States as well as Canada? Anything you want, you can tell, but it just seems like when you've got teams that are on the other side of the border, you've got different rules.
Oh yes, you have, which I'm learning quite about this weekend. Yeah, you got teams like in the States that have to register their players with USA Hockey in Colorado. And how they do it in the States, Sioux Eagles do it in the States, is they have a player roster. That they fill out the player roster, and they submit that player roster to USA Hockey.
Okay.
So USA Hockey will have, who knows on this team. And every time a player is put on or taken off, you have to do a new roster and send it back into USA Hockey.
And then they work with Hockey Canada? Or
Well, that's the issue, and then here in Canada, what we do in the NOJHL is we have a card system, the old player card registration that we fill out for, name, address, the player, signed by the player, who you're playing for, and send it into North Bay, and they approve it or not. And now we're implementing that onto a HCR, which is a Hockey Canada Registry, which is, you fill out all, information, so they know where you've played since you first started.
Okay.
It's all that information's put on your member information, so they know that this person played Adam here, 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 and here, and it's all checked off, and that's all filled in by the teams. The teams don't approve it, the league doesn't approve it, the NOHA approves it, which is then in turn Hockey Canada.
Okay. So there's a guarantee that players are who they say they are, and
Well,
pretty much of insurance.
I would say,
Not gonna have 25-year-olds playing on that.
no, but it's supposed to be, and sometimes things fall through the cracks, very seldom. But yeah, they're supposed to all work in conjunction with and together, and they normally do.
Do Canadians play on the American team? Do some Canadians play on the, and vice versa?
Yes.
Or some Americans
Yeah,
allowed to play on?
yeah, they're considered an import,
Okay.
and we have,
So you got import rules?
yeah, oh yeah, yes, I'm quite well versed on the import rule since Thursday. So, yeah, it's
So most of the American teams would consist of
Americans.
Americans?
Yeah, and some Canadians. And some Canadians teams have US players.
Must be kind of whether it's called attraction or it's a real comment on the kind of league when you've got American teams that want to play in your league.
Well, I think, yes, that's one, but also if you look at northern Michigan, there's, this is when you get into the politics of the whole international game here with the US. It makes more sense really for some places in the northern Michigan, and for me to even think about expanding there is you have to get permission from USA Hockey. They are the decider whether a US team plays in a Canadian league, if they're allowed, and then we have to submit to what my member branch is, the NOHA, and then they submit to the OHF, and then they would submit to Hockey Canada, that we allow the Sioux Eagles from Sioux, Michigan to play in the NOJHL. So that we approve it from the Canadian side, and it's approved from the US side.
Okay. So really, it doesn't sound, it sounds as if it's, while there might be some issues that having American teams play in NOJHL, doesn't hurt the league.
No, it doesn't, and actually I think it helps the league, and I think there's other opportunities for expansion in the northern Michigan, the United States. I think I can think of 4 possibilities.
You make it nice for traveling too, if you could go someplace
Well,
and play 2 games.
Yeah, like, you'd have to say I'm not gonna mention any names, but you could do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I don't know what the stress levels or conditioning levels of playing 3 games in 3 nights, but you try not to, but, you might drive 2 hours down to, say, one place and play that, 7 o'clock game.
Mhm.
But, yeah, it saves on money versus traveling to Abitibi, Iroquois Falls.
Most of your games are on weekends, I guess?
Yeah.
To
Some games are, like when North Bay will play, Sudbury's home games are Wednesday.
Okay. But there's no overnight stay for most of the teams that come to Sudbury.
No, no,
So you're accommodating the school schedules.
we're trying
as
to,
you can.
we're trying to, yeah, we're trying to.
I want to get into the Concussion Safety Program, because I know that that's going to probably take us most of the time we've got left. Because the Concussion Safety Program that you've implemented is one of the programs that are new, and I'm pretty sure you were a driving force behind bringing that to the NOJHL.
I would say that, yeah, I introduced it to.
So you're the one that introduced it?
Yeah.
And I've been doing a lot of research since I saw that you introduced it, and tell us why you feel it's such an important addition to the junior A hockey level.
Well, the attraction to me was simple. I had a player last year on my high school team that suffered a concussion, and really, after several months of being off, he literally came back to play with a slip of paper from his doctor allowing him to play. And so he didn't play long because the first game back, he got speared in the stomach and he had a bruised spleen, so that was it. But it was in the first period, it's the 3rd shift or so it really wasn't that bad. And luckily, because I still think to this day, after suffering the concussion he suffered last year when he played hockey, I still think he has some issues. So that was the premise of, looking for information. And then when I was applying for the position, I wanted to come up with a couple programs that could actually make a difference in hockey and are good for the safety of the kids. And concussions, we all know it's here. It's right in front of us. It's, you can't deny it. It's been around. I know I played hockey. When I played, I suffered several. Some would even argue that I suffered several when I took the position, and I still have one, so I don't know, but
Symptoms,
yeah, apparently so. But no, and so when I looked at this, I came up with I looked at the OHL stuff, and I called Dr. Zanata and told him who I was and what the position I was running for, and if I was to be chosen as commissioner, I wanted to implement this program. So we went back and forth and gave him the information, and the same thing with another program not yet announced we're going to do. Same thing, and I walked in and said, "This is how you do it, guys. This is what you should do. You should do this," and they did. It was 5 minutes when I brought it up for a motion. It was 5 minutes at the board. The boys just absolutely. So here it is, and it's important. It's we've spoken over the phone numerous times of and what you're doing with introducing the motion the Rainbow District School Board. It's that important, and I think it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I've spoken to Dr. Zanata as well. Zarnata, right?
Yeah, Zarnata.
Zanata. And Dr. Zanata is explaining that all the NFL teams, the OHL, a lot of professional teams,
US Army,
hundreds of
US Army
schools,
Coast Guard, US Coast Guard,
and they're all using basically the same program. And it's easier to call it impact. It's based on an impact test. The impact stands for immediate post-concussion assessment and cognitive testing. But could you explain how the program works as much as you can?
I call it the BLT.
The BLT.
The BLT, baseline testing.
Baseline testing, okay.
Basically, it's a web-based assessment, computer-based assessment, where they ask you questions before the season will actually start. Every team in the league, every player in the league will have a baseline test, 25 minutes long. They will ask you questions, and they kind of do an assessment of the baseline of your brain. That is then taken, put in a file. Should, in the event you receive a concussion, there's a procedure in place, wait 24 hours, and then they'll do a post-concussion. And they'll measure the results from the post to the baseline. And when you're back at the baseline, then you can play again. And until you get back to the baseline test levels, you're not playing on, or any sport for that matter.
And this is something that is an enhancement over what, I know what is standard in the high schools and what is standard in just about anywhere else, where when you get hit and there's a suspected concussion, you go to your physician or your specialist.
Yeah.
They do whatever testing they want. They do a CT, they can
It doesn't show.
MRI,
Yeah.
and that's what they're finding. It doesn't show. That the injuries that are causing the damage come from a second impact. And that second concussion seems to be, from everything that we've been reading, causes the most damage. That you can get that first concussion, as long as you're not brought back to the game too soon, you reduce the risk of getting that second impact. I think from what Dr. Zornato was saying, and from what you're trying to do in the league, is the doctor may find that there's no physical reason for you to stay out of the game. But if that baseline test, if that impact test shows that there's a significant enough difference between your baseline and the test that you just performed, then it means that there's something else going on with your visual, with your memory, there's something else in those neurons that are just not right yet. Yeah. And I think, well, you've noticed, you're the first junior A league to bring this into play, and it's quickly being
Well, I got a phone call the other day from another fellow commissioner who congratulated me at first on implementing it, and because he said, well, you beat me to the punch. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, we didn't have it budgeted for this year, but because you guys came out with it, you were on the Bob McCallum show on national radio. He said, my phone lit up from the owner saying, we got to do this.
Yeah.
So they're implementing it. So that's a good thing, and it's good for the league, for their league, the Ontario Junior League. It's good for our league, and I hope, and I'm sure every league across Canada and the Canadian Junior League will eventually implement this.
I think what's interesting with your other commissioner friend is that budget didn't even seem to be an issue when they decided we have to do it.
No,
and even in your situation, budget wasn't probably even an
No,
issue.
it wasn't, and he had been talking to Dr. Zanata, and then I guess he wasn't sure, and he was kind of wondering if it was true, and then the announcement came out, then he heard me on the radio. And, it was a reality, and then like you said, within 5-6 hours, all the owners would call and say, oh my God, we gotta do this now, and it's gonna cost money, and they'll all write a check, which is great.